Good evening, I'm Bill Beutel. We report tonight that there have been more arrests that may or may not be in connection with the investigation of the World Trade Center bombing. They may or may not be in connection. What we do know for sure is that Mohammed Salameh is in jail, charged with bombing the World Trade Center 1 week ago. Catching him was a big step, but the FBI staged more raids today because there's a good deal more they have to learn. They raided a storage facility in Jersey City, not very far from where Salameh lived. The head of the FBI, Judge William Sessions, came to New York for his own first-hand look at the devastation the bomb left. And our cameras got down into the crater for a close look at what was ground zero. Salameh and the second arrest in the case are in jail in Lower Manhattan, and senior correspondent John Johnson is there tonight. John?
Well, tonight, Bill, the FBI told Eyewitness News that they had arrested 3 to 4 men in Brooklyn on auto theft charges. But when they were questioned whether or not the men had anything to do with or would be questioned about the bombing, they would have no comment. That's why we're here at the Metropolitan Correctional Facility, where 2 men who may be involved in the bombing are jailed tonight. One of those arraigned just this morning. His name is Ibrahim El Gabroni, and he is now being held without bail in the Metropolitan Correctional Facility after federal judge Richard Owen said in El Gabroni's arraignment on obstruction of justice charges, he's connected to the man who's charged with almost blowing the southern part of Manhattan off the island. He could be involved up to his eyeballs, creating an enormous motive to flee, end quote, and off to jail went El Gabroni. El Gabroni was arrested yesterday when investigators went to his Prospect Park, Brooklyn apartment. Found on El Gabroni were 5 phony Nicaraguan passports. Passports for El Said Nosair and his family. Nosair, the man arrested, then acquitted for the murder of militant JDL Israeli activist Maya Kahani. Also found in El Gabroni's apartment a 9mm pistol with a permit, 150 rounds of ammunition, and 2 stun guns. El Gabroni's lawyer proclaimed his innocence of being linked in any way to the bombing, but he also criticized the arrest of Mohammed Salameh as that of just a fall guy.
If a person was involved in a bombing, which resulted in 5 deaths or 100 deaths or 1 death, and the injuries to 1,000 people or 10 people, that person would not come back.
Mohammed Salameh was arrested yesterday in Jersey City when he returned for a $400 deposit after fragments of the van he rented and later said was stolen were found at the World Trade Center bomb site, along with fragments of the detonator that set off the bomb that killed 5 people. Now, just a few minutes ago, as we told you tonight, the FBI has told Eyewitness News that they arrested 3 to 4 men in Brooklyn and charged them with auto theft. Then they refused to comment as to whether the men would be questioned on any relationship to this bombing. I then made a second call to the FBI. They said one way or the other, this is not a significant arrest. Reporting live from the Metropolitan Correctional Facility in Lower Manhattan, I'm John Johnson, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Okay, John, thank you very much. Mohammed Salameh lived in Jersey City. He rented the van there. He was arrested there when he tried to get his deposit back from the rental agency, as John mentioned a moment ago. And the FBI was back there today, raiding and hunting for more information and more evidence. Tappy Phillips is live in Jersey City. Tappy?
We are in Jersey City, Bill, and we're here with the FBI, the Jersey State Police, and the fire department. Back here behind me in this storage locker, they are executing a search warrant in one of the units, one of the bins of this storage locker. They have apparently found chemicals back there, chemicals in one of the bins, and they're getting ready to put those chemicals into a bomb canister. Now, the fire department is standing by right now because we are told that those chemicals are potentially hazardous or explosive. Authorities have been executing search warrants all day long here in Jersey City. They've been going to the homes of other members of the mosque that the defendant, Mohammed Salameh, also belongs. Obviously, they've been looking for evidence in this case, anything that would connect him to the World Trade Center bombing. Now, back out here live, we're told that in just a few moments they're going to be putting those chemicals into a bomb-proof canister and driving them out here. They'll be taking them away for analysis, and then we're told possible detonation. We're live in Jersey City. Tappy Phillips, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Tappy. Ground zero at the World Trade Center, the spot where they left the bomb in the garage, is a very important spot in the investigation. Because of the evidence the investigators are likely to find there, residue that will give them information about the bomb and the people who put it there. Our cameras got down to ground zero today, and KUSUDA is live at the Trade Center with that story. Kay?
Bill, tonight Port Authority officials say that 18 braces have been put into place in damaged areas here at the World Trade Center, which means more previously inaccessible areas in the crater could become accessible as early as tomorrow. Today we got a close look at the damage on the level where the blast occurred and floors nearby.
There's still a lot of structure hanging down.
For the first time ever, Port Authority officers who were first on the scene during the explosion at the World Trade Center led news crews down onto B2 Ground Zero, the level where the bomb went off, and to within 100 feet of the crater. Although work crews were everywhere setting up braces, carting off debris, the area still looks like a war zone with trails of twisted and abandoned cars, chunks of concrete, and pools of water.
This is where the shockwaves came from. Turn the van over and twisted it.
One officer recalls how he tried to protect himself under his desk.
I held my hands over my head and went under the desk, and then before I got under the desk, everything just fell apart on top of me, and I got 5 stitches to the head.
We had water mains that were shooting high-pressure water down on top of us.
Today, FBI Director William Sessions toured the center for the first time. When he emerged, Sessions said the photos he'd seen did not compare with reality.
Until you're actually in there and see the enormity of the damage from the blast, you cannot fathom, and it is stunning.
Sessions says he met with Police Commissioner Raymond Kelly this morning. He agrees with investigators that it will likely take months to find all those involved in the blast. Meanwhile, Port Authority officials report many of the center's key systems are back online.
As we get into things, we're finding that we're able to accomplish more than what we had anticipated initially.
Systems that are fully restored but still in need of testing include the smoke detectors, elevator recall, which brings them down in an emergency, heating, ventilation, and emergency generator systems. Partially restored or installed are the fire alarm system, public address system, and new battery-operated lighting systems. Officials say Phase 1 of structural repairs may be done by tonight, but then additional braces will be needed. And asked whether the heightened security here would continue given the latest arrests, officials here say they don't feel that it's wise to comment about that yet. Reporting live from the World Trade Center, KUSUDA, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Kay. The FBI says Mohammed Salameh drove the van that carried the bomb into the World Trade Center and left it there. We know very little of importance about this man beyond the fact that he is a Muslim fundamentalist. Who is Salameh? Harry Martin has some answers, live in Jersey City. Harry?
That's right, Bill. He is a bit of a mystery man, and investigators, if they do know very much about Mohammed Salameh, they are not saying anything official. They are not saying anything on the record. We also decided that we should go back to his neighborhood today to find out more about the man that investigators say was responsible for the bombing.
Salameh lived in Jersey City for at least the last 4 years. He was reportedly an aide to Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman, a blind radical Islamic cleric associated with this mosque on Kennedy Boulevard in Jersey City. This man shared the same building with the mosque, but he says that he knew nothing about Salameh.
We know nothing about this guy. I spoke to everybody that comes to the mosque. We were not able to recognize that guy.
Did he worship here?
We don't know him.
This woman lived across the hall from Salameh in Jersey City at an apartment. She says that she only knew Salameh to say hello.
We saw each other in the hall. He said hello. When I had friends over, he said hello to them. We opened the door for him. He opened the door for us. He carried my groceries upstairs, things like that.
So he was pretty friendly.
Well, I don't know that much about him. I've never been in his apartment or he in mine, but he was courteous, let's say.
And other neighbors say that he always kept to himself.
The guy's basically very quiet. Everybody in this block is very quiet. The couple of times that I have seen him during the day and once at night, he's on travel with 2 other guys.
The most controversial part of Salameh's background involves his alleged association with Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman, who once faced deportation charges from the United States and was questioned in connection with the slaying of Rabbi Meir Kahane. Rahman was never charged. According to the Egyptian embassy, Salameh is from Jordan and he is a Palestinian. Knowing what she knows now, this neighbor says that she would have paid closer attention to Salameh.
Really, I don't know really what they were involved in, although now, I think it's much more suspicious than I had thought originally. I just thought they were religious and took care of people from their country and cooked a lot, and that was about it.
So even though we know very relatively little about this suspect, you can bet that as the investigation continues, we will find out much more about Mohammed Salameh. We're live in Jersey City. Harry Martin, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Harry. Mohammed Salameh is said to have worshipped sometimes at a mosque in Brooklyn, the Masjid El Farouk. And that is where you would sometimes find Sheikh Abdul Rahman, a blind man who has an international reputation for preaching terrorism. David Navarro is at the mosque with some of the people in the neighborhood who will go to that mosque with a reaction of their role, reaction to the role their community is playing in this story. David?
That's right, Bill. To the roughly 200 or so people who come to pray at this mosque behind us, this is a house of worship. But yesterday, it, along with 2 other mosques in our area, were linked to the World Trade Center bombing, and now investigators are taking a much closer look at them. Hassab Abdul Hassai sought cover under an umbrella this afternoon from the bad weather as he stood outside his mosque. But it was the storm of controversy surrounding the Al Farouk Mosque on Atlantic Avenue that left him feeling cold inside.
It's a bad taste all the way around.
The bad taste comes from the link some have made between 3 mosques in our area and a suspect who was arrested for bombing the World Trade Center. All have one thing in common. Radical Muslim fundamentalist Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman is said to have preached terrorism inside of them. But Abdul Hassai says he has never seen the cleric at this mosque or the other one he prays at in Jersey City.
Everybody's excited about this thing, and they're trying to find, you know, some way of accusing people of doing this, but it has nothing to do with this mosque or any other mosque.
One worshiper we spoke to said it was impossible for him to believe that someone who prays at this mosque would be behind all the death and destruction left after the World Trade Center bombing. Reporting live from downtown Brooklyn, David Navarro, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Okay, David, thank you. When we come back, Al Sharpton has some new digs tonight, but it's not at a place where you'd want to spend any hard time. And it looks most like a harmless strip of film, but it has put a member of a Long Island school board in some very hot water, and we're going to tell you why when we come back with more Eyewitness News in a moment.
Mercury Grand Marquis has more passenger room than Buick Park Avenue or Olds 98. More trunk room and more horsepower. But there's one thing it has that's less than its competition. A sticker price, thousands less. The 6-passenger V8-powered Mercury Grand Marquis. And now with $1,500 cash back. You simply have to have it. See your Lincoln Mercury dealer today.
Call 1-800-OK-CABLE by midnight Friday and we'll lay a free offer right on the line for you. We think you'll love cable TV so much we'll install it for free when you order Showtime or the movie channel. But that's only if you call by midnight Friday and order Showtime for exclusive blockbusters, original comedy, and more, or the movie channel for a movie anytime you want one. Hey, we're so sure you'll love cable TV, we'll install it for free. So call 1-800-OK-CABLE by midnight Friday. We'll lay great entertainment from Showtime and the movie channel right on the line for you.
At Sims, when we say selection, we mean brand names, hundreds of them. We mean men's suit sizes from 36 short to 54 extra long, and enough different colors and styles, so in most sizes you can choose from over 100 designer and brand names. A real selection of brand names, a real selection of sizes, styles, and colors, and every one at off price. That's what we think a bargain is all about.
Is it art? Well, I guess it's my art.
Lorraine Hill is a Mid-Atlantic banker.
Years from now, they'll say, a banker did this.
Mid-Atlantic bankers understand everyone's an individual. They design new individual choice banking so you can choose what you want.
Maybe they won't say anything.
And you bank the way you want, by phone.
Glad I work for Mid-Atlantic. We're one of a kind.
Reverend Al Sharpton is behind bars tonight for obstruction and tying up traffic during a day of outrage march 5 years ago. In jail or not, Reverend Sharpton says he's still in the race for the U.S. Senate and that he's out to defeat Senator Moynihan. Political correspondent Pat Dawson has this story for us tonight.
It's not the usual way of laying the groundwork for a U.S. Senate campaign, but then Al Sharpton has rarely been conventional. But before he can continue his search for political legitimacy, Reverend Sharpton had some dues to pay from a former life. Today he surrendered in Brooklyn to begin serving a 45-day sentence for his role in the days of outrage protest following the Howard Beach killing. His court appearance was brief and good-natured after a final attempt to allow him to speak was turned down by Judge Albert Koch.
Judge, I would ask that the Reverend Sharpton and Mr. Charles Barron be permitted to speak.
Not at this time. They had their chance to speak, sir, at the time of the sentence.
After a Senate race last year in which he not only exceeded vote expectations, but took the political high road in an otherwise nasty campaign, Sharpton has clearly changed his public tactics.
I will call on our people to handle this with dignity. I will be fasting, I will be meditating, and I will be coming out running for the Senate.
While the Reverend Sharpton claims to be entering the political mainstream, his politics still includes a heavy dose of street theater. His surrender drew a crowd of cameras and charges of a racial double standard from activist fellow travelers. Then there was the chanting crowd, all part of the tactics of protest within reason. But the main event was the man who will challenge Senator Moynihan next year. And while he might not be the first Senate candidate to have been in jail, he's surely the first who went so readily.
God bless you, John.
Thank you, sir.
God bless.
In Brooklyn, Pat Dawson, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
A high-ranking executive of El Al, the Israeli airline, is under arrest tonight, charged with raping an employee on several occasions in the airline's terminal building at Kennedy Airport. And police say 50-year-old Yahil Ani is also accused of sexually abusing two other former employees. And in a courtroom in Newark, 4 young men are awaiting their fates in the Glenridge rape trial. The jury got the case yesterday and has asked twice for the judge to legally define mental defectiveness. The case centers on whether the mentally handicapped girl, allegedly the victim, was capable of consenting to sex or was sexually assaulted against her will. George Solano is a film producer. He is also a member of the school board in Sag Harbor on Long Island, and he wanted to teach some of the kids in Sag Harbor something about film. Sounded like a good idea, a harmless idea, but for George Solano, his film was a costly idea. N.J. Burkett has the story.
George Solano is a retired documentary filmmaker who knows a thing or two about censorship. But nothing in his 40-year career could have prepared him for what he found in his hometown high school. Solano is a member of the local school board. Last month, he lectured 10th grade math students about what he calls the persistence of vision.
A series of still pictures can be superimposed on the retina, and through that process, you gain the illusion of motion.
To make his point, Solano passed around clips from an award-winning film he made in the 60s. One of the strips showed a group of bare-chested men and women.
If you had it to do over again, you'd have left this out.
Probably I would, yeah, because I didn't know the kids would giggle about it, you know, and go home and tell their parents that they saw some, you know, something that was unsavory, which it isn't at all.
Paul Stuckart says his own child was appalled.
She was upset by it, and she thought, as a 16-year-old girl, it had no business being in her math class.
Administrators say that although some parents and students may be overreacting, Solano has been banned from Sag Harbor's classrooms.
If it were offered in a different context, an art class, say, where it was discussed beforehand what they were going to see, I think that the embarrassment factor would have been much smaller, and it might have had a much different reaction on the part of the students.
Administrators say George Solano will be allowed to return here, just not anytime soon. Parents insist it won't happen without an apology. In the end, Solano himself says he's only left to wonder whose maturity he's overestimated, that of the students or of their parents. In Sag Harbor, Long Island, N.J. Burkett, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
One group of parents in Sag Harbor is seeking to have Solano removed from the school board. Solano, on his part, has filed papers with the State Department of Education asking that his censure be revoked. When we come back, a stunning announcement in the world of sports today. The coach of one of the Giants' biggest rivals calls it quits. Scott Clark has sports in just a moment when we return.
From Montauk in the east to Great Neck in the west.